Welcome to A Moment of Zen. Time to sit back and relax as model, actress, mentor, and supermom Zen Sams takes you on a sexy and wild ride, covering the latest in film, fashion, pop culture, politics, and entertainment from the millennial mom's perspective. Here's your host, Zen Sams.
Hello, my beautiful friends and loyal listeners. It's always a pleasure to spend my time with you on the airwaves. Thank you so much for listening and interacting with me on social media. That truly does make it all worthwhile. Please make sure to follow me at Zen Sams. That's Zen with an X, not a Z. And remember that we're now on TV. Tune in at watch.kpmedia.tv and catch A Moment of Zen on the Impact Live channel Sundays at 11 a.m. Eastern. All episodes are now available on demand. We have a great show lined up for you today. In our influencer segment, brought to you by Romulus Entertainment, we are featuring Connie Pena, Jennifer Lopez's official tribute artist. She is a single mother of two and founder of 1111 Beauty. She's coming on to chat all things J-Lo, her new ventures, and how she balances it all out as a single mom. In our Scandals segment, we are featuring returning contributor Imran Ansari of ABK Law, right here in New York City. We're going to be covering the crazy twist of fate of Robert Durst's murder conviction, and now that he has been vacated on legal technicality from beyond the grave, basically. And we're also going to be discussing Vanessa Bryant and how a federal judge ruled that a lawsuit over crash scene photos stemming from her late husband's Kobe Bryant and Gianna's crash can in fact now move forward. That's a big win. In our innovation and tech segment brought to you by Caldwell Soames, we have returning contributor Paul Calwdell, chairman and CEO of Caldwell Soames, and he's joined by his good friend Hsiao Chen, CEO at Mx3 Data Centers and consultant at Paula Martin Fashions. We are chatting how digital assets are changing the business of fashion and chatting about where the industry is truly headed. In our culinary and wine segment this week, we are featuring returning contributor Peter Guimades. He's managing partner at NYC Restaurant Group. He's coming on to help you navigate NYC Restaurant Week with ease. And that is January 18th, running through February 13th, NYC Restaurant Week. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with J-Lo tribute artist Connie Pena. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Tempus, the next generation of the engagement economy, allowing people to make money on their data and earn cryptocurrency for the time they spend on things they already currently love to do. With Tempus, brands will have the ability to pay you directly for interacting with apps, watching videos, playing games, and more. Tempus, the time is now. Engage and earn.
Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I am your host, Zen Sams. Now up in just a few minutes in our influencer segment, brought to you by Romulus Entertainment, we are featuring Connie Pena, Jennifer Lopez's official tribute artist, a single mother of two and founder of 1111 Beauty, a 3D lash and cosmetics line. Connie is a multi-talented Mexican, Peruvian, Latin urban artist that is making waves in the music world by collaborating with top acts and with Grammy-winning producers. Connie was born and raised in Santa Ana, California, and at just 21 years old, her father gave her the responsibility of owning and operating the very well-known nightclub El Premier in Las Vegas. Now, many renowned artists have performed there, and it had an absolutely great run. The club closed its doors in 2014, but her passion for beauty prompted her first award-winning beauty salon. And in 2009, she was named lead coordinator of hair and makeup for the Latin Grammys. Then Puerto Rican choreographer Papote Varette saw Connie for the first time in 2011 at Miss Mexico pageant in Las Vegas, and he was shocked with her resemblance to the Queen of the Bronx herself. But at the time, Connie was 4 months pregnant and therefore could not make a decision to imitate her. At the middle of 2018, Connie began to prepare physically to give life to a very special production that would pay homage to J-Lo around the world. And in April 2018, while at the Latin Billboard Awards, her life forever changed. She caught the attention of the media internationally on the spot. Thousands of J.Lo fans confused her with the diva from the Bronx. Wow, what an incredible journey. Welcome to the show, Stunner.
Wow. Wow. You know, it's so beautiful to hear that. Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm so happy to be here. You're in New York. I'm in LA right now. I mean, this is amazing. Thank you for having me on.
Without a doubt, Mama, you are amazing. What a journey.
Thank you.
Catch us up from when you start physically training to become Jennifer Lopez in every way.
In 2019, I decided to invest into learning how to sing and dance and giving an honorable tribute in J.Lo's name. I haven't seen anyone do it, and people were asking me, Connie, you should do it. You should do it. Living in Las Vegas, I figured, you know what? That's a great idea. So I moved to LA for almost a year, trained with top choreographers, learned a lot of the dance moves, and then went back to Vegas, did my showcase 2021, and then COVID hit.
Interesting. So now you've gone from having a owner of a beauty salon in Vegas to being hair and makeup coordinator at the Grammys to really having that exposure. So people are seeing you. You're just not applying your transition of being the #1 impersonator here for J.Lo. So just this past November now, you were a competitor in Clash of the Cover Bands and you performed Let's Get Loud in a spot-on tribute to Jennifer Lopez. Tell us about that.
Thank you. Yeah, you know, a casting agency had contacted me and said, we want you to be part of this tribute show. It's a competition. Now, I'm scared of competitions. Why? Because I'm the only one that does what I do. So why would I want to go compete? I'm great at what I do, and I don't want to look bad. Well, then they said, this is Jimmy Fallon, ETV. I'm like, oh my gosh. Oh, another thing is because I also launched my own music. Now I'm an independent artist, and we'll get into that. But I didn't want to, you know, kind of stop doing what I was doing and then go back into tributing. Well, when they told me Jimmy Fallon was behind it, ETV, I said, you know, this could be amazing. People the world hasn't seen it. I've done a lot of Latin media. I've toured all over the world in different countries, Latin America especially. I really want to show what I've learned and what I know how to do in honor of J.Lo. They loved it. I was scared. I went up against the Britney Spears tribute artist, which is huge. She's been doing it for 16 years. I only had maybe a year and a half strong experience of what I did. So I gave it my all. I studied, I worked, I trained. I got some of the best choreographers with me. A J Lover came with me, Jessie Vega. I mean, I had great dancers with me. So I was very confident. My wardrobe was on point for the Stars Fashion House, you know, designs everything that I use, which also designs J.Lo's stuff, all her wardrobe.
So at this point, you go around competing. In my opinion, no matter where you came in terms of placement, you are a winner in that sense that now it's even more exposure. So you now have empowered yourself. You're a single mom. You have 2 kids. Kudos to you, Mom. I take my hat off.
Thank you.
You're juggling a lot. So you launched 1111 Beauty. It's 3D lashes and cosmetics. Yes. Tell me about the inspiration that this line represents. And I know that this ties into something personal in your life. Remember, we have about 4.5 minutes left.
Got it. Yes, 1111 Beauty. Since a lot of people think that, well, she just started entertainment or the beauty industry. This has been part of my life for 20 years. I was a makeup artist for 10 years. I owned an award-winning salon. And 1111 Beauty Lashes, I wanted to show, a lot of people ask me, how do you get that look? And a lot of it has to do with the right contouring and lashes to get the right Jennifer Lopez look. So I invested almost 2 years of picking the proper lashes and making it super easy for the average woman to use. And it's taken off well. It's taken off very well. People are receiving it very well. It's high quality 3D mink lashes. We're actually looking out for international distribution now. We have a lot of deals on the table, a lot of reality TV. That's also going to go into 1111 Beauty.
Great. So you have now I'm hearing this. So you effectively have combined your social media and into your work, and the power of social media can be felt almost everywhere these days. I mean, there are classes teaching people on how to become an influencer. Companies and people are trying to boost their following, get noticed. And you've always said, if you're looking to get discovered, make sure you are consistent. So now Talk to me about, where can people consistently find you? Are you on tour? And also, I'd like to know, have you ever met J.Lo?
Yeah, you can find me on social media, TikTok. I'm a big TikToker. So because of the pandemic, I got over 1 million followers in 5 months. So that was huge for me. TikTok, Connie Pena, Instagram, Facebook, and please follow me on YouTube. Help me grow my channel as an artist as well. Connie Pena as well.
And what about on tour, like performances? Are you booked out ahead of time for that?
I am. So I still do a lot of private events for JLo. I mean, as a JLo tribute artist, I'm booked out in different countries all year round. It's more private events that I do, casinos, different countries. But since I'm launching my own music as Connie P, you can see all my shows, my music, my interviews, everything that I'm doing for Connie P as well.
I love it. The power of connectivity. We could find you anywhere. You're juggling it all. Businesswoman, entrepreneur, artist, dancer. I love it. I love what you're doing.
Yeah. You know, JLo gave me a great start in learning the tribute of JLo, right? Mimicking her, learning how to dance, her mannerism. It helped me become the artist that I am now. So I've had a lot of big producers tell me, hey, if you're already singing and dancing, why don't you do your own music? And now I'm working with award-winning producers like Keith Harris. We did Booty. He's the Black Eyed Peas producer. He's worked with Michael Jackson, with just Fergie, tons of artists. And we just launched a song called Booty. So please go check out my last song, Booty. It's on YouTube.
We definitely will check out Booty. Now you have 2 kids real quick. We have about a minute left. Boy or girl? Girls, boys or girls?
We have boy and a girl.
Boy and a girl. And what are their age?
So my son's 26 now. I was a young mom. I had him at 16 years old.
God bless you.
I influence a lot of mothers, young teen mothers, to follow their dreams, that it's never too late because of what I've done and what have I experienced in life as well. And G is 11.
And she is 11. Well, oh, Mom, I love you so much. I love listening to you. I love listening to your story. You're so inspirational. Thank you so much for coming on A Moment of Zen.
Thank you so much, Zen.
Guys, you definitely have to check out Connie Pena. Go to her website, Connie with 2 N's, Connie Pena, PENA.com. Check her out on Facebook or on the gram at Connie Pena. She's amazing. She's incredible. Definitely support emerging artists. That's what we do here on A Moment of Zen. You're listening to A Moment of Zen. I'm your host, Zen Sams on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Revere Securities. Revere is committed to building a relationship of trust in which they work closely with you to help you define your objectives, explore alternatives, and choose the financial and investment strategies that are most appropriate for you. Go to reveresecurities.com.
Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Now, up in just a few, we have the Scandals segment with returning contributor Imran Ansari of Idala Bertuna Commons, otherwise known as ABK Law, right here in New York City. We're going to be covering the crazy twist of fate of Robert Durst's murder conviction, and now that he will be vacated on legal technicality from beyond the grave. Durst died in custody on January 10th at the age of 78 and was recently convicted of murdering his best friend, Susan Berman, in 2000. That is one of many crimes he committed. And we're also going to be discussing Vanessa Bryant and how a federal judge ruled that a lawsuit over crash scene photos stemming from her late husband's, Kobe Bryant's helicopter crash, can in fact move forward, keeping it on track for a jury trial set for next month. Now, U.S. District Judge John F. Walter concluded that there are genuine issues of material fact for trial and denied the L.A. County's motion to dismiss the case. Vanessa Bryant sued the L.A. County Sheriff's Department and other agencies for emotional distress, basically claiming first responders took and shared unauthorized photos of the human remains of her husband and daughter at the crash site. Now, the county's lawyers maintained the images were not publicly disseminated. Now, here to break it all down is Imran Ansari. Welcome back, my friend. And what another scandal this is.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy New Year's, Zen, and I'm happy to be here.
Happy New Year. So let's start with Vanessa and we'll circle back to Durst. So Kobe crash, right? We have all 9 people on board this helicopter. They died when the aircraft crashed into a hill in Calabasas, California amid the heavy fog while they were traveling to a teen basketball tournament at Kobe's Mamba Sports Academy. Now, I'm going to directly quote the complaint that basically sums up her anger, and I want you to tell me what's up here. Now, this is specifically what she's claiming. Now, the close-up photos of Gianna and Kobe's remains were passed around on at least 28 devices and by at least a dozen firefighters, and that was only the beginning. The gratuitous sharing continued in the following days and weeks and included such outrageous conduct as flaunting the photos in a bar while pantomiming dismemberment and showing off the photos over cocktails at an awards gala. And one deputy laughed while sharing the photos, while another described the crash victims' remains as hamburger and piles of meat. Wow. She's now seeking millions of dollars in damages for this emotional distress. What is your take here, and will she get it?
Yes, and well, this is one of many cases that have came out of this helicopter crash, civil lawsuits and whatnot. And this is where Vanessa Bryan is suing for invasion of privacy and negligence. And you just summed it up from that complaint as to this, the egregious allegations that first responders had taken these photographs and they shared it, not necessarily with the public. And that's what they're saying. They said that, there shouldn't be a case. There's no damages here. The public didn't see it. But Vanessa Bryan is saying otherwise, saying you shared it amongst yourselves. You made light of it. And now she's suing. And yes, a judge said, okay, this motion is denied. They try to get it thrown out of court. He said denied. And it's going to go to a jury where a jury will decide whether this conduct was invasion of privacy, was it whether it was negligence, and whether Vanessa Bryant and her family were damaged from this. And I think that they're going to have a compelling case, Zen, based on what we see or hear in the complaint. Of course, they're allegations, but the allegations are pretty egregious because you think first responders, you're there to help. This is a tragedy. And the last thing you want to think about is that photographs of your loved ones in their most, horrific state are being shared and made light of.
It's really sickening if this is in fact true. I mean, and if of course you're going to have the county attorneys argue that her claim of emotional distress caused by the alleged sharing of the cell phone photos is just based on hypothetical harm and lacks standing since the images were never publicly circulated and she never saw them. But what? Are you kidding me? That is not even morally, proper for somebody to counter on that. You know what I mean? Like, this is obviously, my heart goes out to her. So this is a little bit of a complicated situation, but I think based on morals and values, it's a home run for her.
Yes, and on the legal side, let's just take the defense position. In a case like this, you need liability and then also you need damages, right? And they're saying that the damages aren't there and they're speculative, meaning that, they weren't put out there in the public. And whatever hurt or harm that Vanessa Bryan is alleging is pure speculation. But if they can show, meaning the plaintiff, meaning Vanessa Bryan, and her attorneys can show that this caused her emotional harm, pain, and suffering, and she had to hear about this, and even though she didn't see it herself, just the thought of this going on, if it's proven that these were shared like that, that may be able to get it to a jury and an award at time of trial.
Yeah, I agree. Look, the county says that her lawsuit is without merit, and they had recently asked the judge to dismiss it in summary judgment, and it said that Vanessa Bryant never saw the actual photos, that the photos were deleted and that no photos were shared outside of county personnel, except for when that sheriff deputy showed some crash scene photos to a bartender at a restaurant 2 days after the crash. So if the judge had agreed with the county's motion for summary judgment, her lawsuit would have been finished right there, right? I mean, pending any appeal. But the bottom line is that the judge's ruling gives her new leverage against the county if she is inclined to settle the case before trial, right? Because I mean, that it would set precedents.
Yeah, Zen. So, that summary judgment motion, basically it's a trial on paper, and the filer of a summary judgment motion is asking the judge, say, hey, there's no question of fact here that should go to the jury. You should decide this case yourself on the papers, on the law, and you could dismiss it. Well, the judge in this case said, no, I can't do that. There is something for the jury, and it should go to the jury to determine, and that's what's going to happen unless it settles beforehand. And yes, you're right. She has leverage now because now that summary judgment motion wasn't successful, and she's facing, or the defendants are facing, a possible jury determining their fate.
Yeah, and look, the county previously agreed to pay. Let's not forget they had agreed to pay about
1.25 million settlements to 2 other families who lost loved ones in the same crash. They had filed similar lawsuits over the sharing of photos, but Vanessa has not shown the same willingness to call off her lawsuit in exchange for a payment. So I'm feeling like that is definitely going to set precedents.
Absolutely, Xen. And we'll wait and see if it goes to trial.
Yeah, exactly. So the question is moral or money, because she's out for blood, I think, just on a moral level. All right, back to Durst. So this guy dies in custody January 10th of this year. He was 78 years old. They had begun the process of appealing his September conviction. He was found guilty of the execution-style murder of his best friend, Susan Berman, who died in 2000. And the prosecution argued during trial that Durst killed the Los Angeles author because she knew too much, right, about the 1982 disappearance of his first wife, Kathleen Durst, whose remains have not been found. Now, death during a pending appeal results in a canceled conviction due to a technicality in California that prevents convictions from being finalized until a decision is rendered by the Court of Appeal. What? In this case, what?
Xen, it is an area of the law which is echoed in not just California, but echoed across many states, including here in New York, where I'm sitting right now. And, you know, if there's an appeal of a criminal conviction and the defendant dies during that appeal, well, guess what? That conviction is vacated. It's abated by virtue of that death. Now, let's be a little, specific here. It does not mean it's an acquittal. So Robert Durst's attorney made a comment that this would be a posthumous acquittal. Well, that's not quite correct. An acquittal means that a jury did not find the evidence sufficient enough to find you guilty of the crime. Here, a jury did find Robert Durst guilty. So it's not an acquittal by any means. It just means that because of this procedural technicality, when there's an appeal pending and the appellate court has not put a stamp on that conviction, it means this is abated, it's vacated. And let's think about this, what happened after this conviction. We know that, Robert Durst's wife, Kathy Durst, her body has never been found. That has not been solved in terms of a crime, but a grand jury in November of last year in Westchester County indicted Robert Durst for charges related to that disappearance of murder. And right now, because he's dead, that's also going to be, basically put aside because now he's dead. He can't answer to those charges.
Yeah, exactly. And back to what you just said, it's important to not minimize his heinous crimes, because the fact that Durst's death during the pendency of his appeal will cause the conviction to be vacated is an unfortunate, like you said, technical rule, which in no way diminishes or changes what we all know what happened, which is he's guilty. And at this point right now, Robert Durst is infamous for escaping justice. So things may change with the California legislature if they were to put something in code that overrules the precedent. But as for now, I guess there's nothing that can be done because the Court of Appeal has no discretion whatsoever. There's no exception for anything in this case, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and Xen, Robert Durst sort of took pleasure, it appeared, in his sort of evasiveness of these charges, which eventually caught up to him years later. And right now, just sort of his an end chapter in this very story with a lot of twists and turns, which I'm sure there's going to be some, movie made about this. There has already been one, which was based on Robert Durst. And I think there's going to be another one because this is sort of the latest twist and turn that Robert Durst, he again, not necessarily literally, but figuratively escape justice.
Yeah.
Again,
I agree. Well, listen, we're out of time. Imran, it's always a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you so much for coming on. It's always insightful to get your perspective on things.
Thanks for having me, Xen. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely, guys. Check out Imran Ansari. He's on the gram at Imran Ansari ESQ. And you can also check them out at idalalaw.com. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Xen is brought to you by Aikido Pharma, an early-stage pharmaceutical company developing innovative drugs for improving anti-cancer and antiviral therapies. Traded on the NASDAQ under ticker AIKI. They have first-in-class partnerships with leading medical universities like the University of Maryland and the University of Texas. To learn more, go to www.aikidopharma.com. A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Tempus, the next generation of the engagement economy, allowing people to make money on their data and earn cryptocurrency for the time they spend on things they already currently love to do. With Tempus, brands will have the ability to pay you directly for interacting with apps, watching videos, playing games, and more. Tempus, the time is now. Engage and earn.
Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Now, coming up in our Innovation and Tech segment brought to you by Caldwell Soames, we have returning contributor Paul Calwdell, chairman and CEO of Caldwell Soames, and he's joined by his good friend Hsiao Chen, CEO at Mx3 Data Centers, where they focus on powering high-intensive computing technologies like blockchain and artificial intelligence. Today, we are chatting how digital assets are changing the business of fashion brands like Paula Martin. Now, digital assets like virtual fashion, gaming, and NFTs are offering new ways for consumers to shop, exchange goods, and inhabit identities, and in turn, offering fashion brands the opportunity for increased revenue streams. Tech-savvy and younger groups of people, like our Gen Zers, are spending increasing amounts of time in the metaverse, from social media and gaming to virtual realities, and are adopting multiversal identities. This is key. Gen Z spent an average of 8 hours per day on screens in 2020, while 81% of Gen Zs have played video games in the past 6 months, averaging 7.5 hours per week. Yup, that's a big number. The metaverse is becoming a big business, with funding pouring in from investors, and for the fashion industry, it has become the hottest buzzword. In 2021, Gucci auctioned off its first NFT for charity and issued its first ever virtual sneakers. Following this, brands including Dolce & Gabbana, Rimowa, and Louis Vuitton released NFTs. An increasing number of fashion brands are also collaborating with gaming platforms to design virtual fashion assets that will help style, decorate, and turn the metaverse into the new fashion trend. Joining me now is Paul and his good friend, Hsiao Chen. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hi, Zen. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, Zen. How are you?
Hi, how are you? Welcome to the platform. So, Paul, I'll start with you. I know that look, at this point right now, you're a regular, so you know the drill, all right? The clock starts. There are more and more second worlds, and we've been talking about this in our previous innovation and tech segments, and these second worlds, wherever you can express yourself, but there's probably an underestimation of the value being attached to individuals who want to express themselves in a virtual world with a virtual product through a virtual persona. Remember, 19 million visitors attended the Gucci Garden within the Roblox gaming metaverse. What do you say to this?
I say that most people that don't understand this, which I think in the world at this point includes most people, can't get their head around the idea of a virtual value. But you know, when you invest in a company, there's something called intrinsic value. That's beyond the financials necessarily. It's the intrinsic value of a business, and that becomes a consideration for making an investment. So this concept of virtual value is very interesting in and of itself, and we see more and more in our portfolio, especially in our privately held companies portfolio. We are seeing more and more of this move into the creation and the valuation of digital assets. I think it creates a degree of uniqueness. It creates a degree of security because it's not easily replicated. You can simply do a one-off, or you can drop an NFT of a pair of shoes and have X number of iterations of those shoes. And maybe there's only 2 pair with some unique gold shoelaces or something, as an example. And what it does is it creates a level of uniqueness, collectability, and something that you mentioned earlier in your intro, which was transportability. And that means transportability across gaming platforms and so forth, meaning that you could have the same shoes in one game as another game. And those games have nothing to do with each other, not even the same game makers. Think of PDFs and how transportable PDFs are across different applications in Word or the Apple platform, the Microsoft platform, Linux, it doesn't matter. PDFs work because they have that ubiquitous nature to them. That's what we're starting to see with these digital assets.
Yeah, and part of, I completely agree. I mean, part of the appeal of virtual worlds is the chance to engage with others and build communities, something that was really accelerated by the pandemic lockdowns when really in-person social contact was completely limited. Now, these soaring levels of engagement have spawned a new generation of digital fashion creatives who are pushing these limits of possibility online. And brands have the opportunity now to engage more deeply and creatively with their customers and, like you said, unlock new value streams. And I'm going to now have a question for our guest. Hsiao, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Nice to have you on. Now, NFTs have witnessed an explosion of interest over the past year following an NFT created by digital artist Beeple, which sold at Christie's for a record-breaking $69.3 million. And in fashion, NFTs have a wide range of use cases ranging from product authentication to serving as collectible pieces. Where is fashion headed in this digital transformation? And what do you say to this specifically for brands like Paula Martin?
So for Paula Martins, I think the brand of any kind of fashion, and having been a consultant for almost a decade with LVMH and the groups, DVF and other fashion companies, authenticity is really important on the physical world, and the same thing in the digital world. So when you have products that you purchase and you spend very good money for a very high quality bag, pair of shoes, or clothing, you want to make sure they're authentic because there's an intrinsic value to it as well. And you want to make sure that those pieces are validated because some of them are collectibles that have a resale value going forward in the future. Same thing as cars or paintings, etc. In the digital world with NFTs, the same could be said of it too. People do collect things that are digital. Having worked at Google and PayPal, these are some of the things that we take to heart when you transfer an asset. Very similar to what Paul had said about PDFs. They have a unique marker. They have a unique signature. Having that being validated, there's an intrinsic value that is attached to it. It may not be valuable to some people. They may not see it, but they are valuable to others. And we have to treat that as such. And in doing so, you need to make sure you can validate the authenticity, the track and tracing of that product or of that author or that artist and designer all the way from the beginning to the end customer. And that creates the value. That continues to create additional value going forward. So it is a very natural marriage of the tech, the fashion world, and bring digital into the physical world.
It's definitely the nicest synergy I've seen in a while in the digital transformation, and it parlays very nicely. Paul, back in 2021, I was talking about this at the Bitcoin conference. There was a wave of NFT engagement among luxury players, often via the gaming universe. For their 20th anniversary, Louis Vuitton launched a video game with collectible NFTs, partially designed by Beeple, right? And the game contained NFT art that could be acquired by players in a story echoing the journey of the brand's founder. Is the connectivity and participation, in your opinion, a main factor in attracting people here, this notion of belonging?
I think it is. And I think that's because that relates to the whole concept of the value of community. Social media platforms. I mean, look at the growth in those platforms, interactive platforms like TikTok and things of that nature. Snapchat, look at those. These are, and then some new ones that are emerging that are like the next generation even of those platforms. It's that community concept and that community aspect, that the concept of being able to belong. And it's beyond fan clubs because at OG2D.com, which is Original Digital's version of an NFT marketplace, they did a series drop there for Amy Winehouse, for example, and now they're about to open this auction of a physical painting that represents that digital, those 6 digital drops of Amy Winehouse related NFTs. And now an artist has painted, a very well-known artist has painted a physical version of that. And that physical version is now going to be auctioned off at a physical auction with one NFT as a digital representation of that painting. And the interest in that is just phenomenal. It's amazing for me. I look at the numbers of people that want to register for that auction. And I think it has to do with that community aspect. I think it has to do with the uniqueness. And I think it's just kind of like trading baseball cards. You know, you want to get that one Tug McGraw card or Ted Williams card that's worth a couple $1 million. But there's only one or two or three, and Topps releases them, you know, intermittently, kind of thing. And so they become unique and valuable because of the rarity as well.
I couldn't agree more. And this is kind of the bringing us back to that, people feeling like they're in a community, like they are belonging. And I think this, the shift in attitude was really born out of the pandemic as well, where it allowed, whether it was on the gaming side or people on social media, just staying connected. And now you're able to stay connected and get compensated, which I love. Shai, I have I'm going to divert this question to you. And it really comes back to the excitement around NFTs. Much of the excitement around virtual environments is around NFTs, unique crypto assets whose ownership is verified on blockchains and are brought, sold, and exchanged, you know, in the metaverse, mainly using what we call cryptocurrency, right? And the collaboration also includes branded in-game NFT accessories, which is what's interesting in this conversation. And Dolce & Gabbana collaborated with UNXD, it's a curated marketplace for digital luxury and couture, to create an inaugural 9-piece collection of NFTs sold alongside the physical couture, tying back to what Paul just said, right? Where you have these parallels between the virtual world and our actual traditional models. These are the major players, though. Where do the smaller prêt-à-porter lines and urban lines fit in here?
I think they can follow suit. I think a lot of the times where the brands, even up and coming brands, they're not the large, well-known, established, older fashion brands. They want to compete, and they also want to provide a sense of level of playing field that people can have with larger, older brands. And the same thing you talk about when Fubu, for example, came out. There were certain limited lines that even the urban brands came out that people wanted, and if you didn't have it, you couldn't get it again. It was a limited edition.
Good point.
Right?
I love that Fubu analogy.
Exactly, and so the same up and coming brands are trying to create that sense of community that Paul is talking about, right? I know it. I'm on the inside. I can always go and spend money on the larger brands, but I can also find the younger, the newer brands because I want to be unique. And the whole point of NFT is the uniqueness of it. Being extremely unique, you can authenticate it, and having a unique piece of physical collectible or digital collectible, it's the same mindset. So, we're not talking about a lot very different in mindset. It's just a different form factor.
Different form factor. Good point. Paul, looking ahead, the buzz around NFTs is definitely going to continue to build as increasing numbers of fashion brands seek paths to differentiation and launch creative experiments. However, though, they will also expect brands to engage in digital assets in a format that is really foreign to them. And the crypto fashion opportunity will demand significant investment and really a new playbook. Brands will need a strategic mindset and a willingness to develop partnerships and really harness different talent to deliver high quality content, both in-house and in collaboration. And it might be necessary to take a new lens, to take on a new lens on ROI, focusing on less measurable benefits such as brand awareness and marketing impact, as well as setting flexibility targets that are calibrated to potential rather than focusing exclusively on the bottom line. What pitfalls do you see here, though? Because there are a lot of pitfalls with this.
I think there are. I think there are mistakes that get made along the way in any innovative, disruptive environment. But I think for those that focus on transformation, not just so much innovation and disruption, but transforming how people think about how the things that matter to them, and how maybe a better way emerges, or a new way that's additive emerges. I think you're going to find that more and more people are learning lessons every single day when it comes to digital assets, NFTs, STOs, DEX offerings, and cryptocurrency, on and on and on. And there are mistakes after mistakes after mistakes, many well publicized, most not. But they're learning experiences just like anything else. Just like when database technology first started, 30 years ago, Nobody had it exactly right. And then it emerged and it evolved. And now there's this thing, blockchain, not perfect. Blockchain is still very much a junk in, junk out technology. It's exciting. Everybody talks about blockchain. The reality is it's still junk in, junk out on blockchain. So people have to be aware that there's content, there's context, and there's infrastructure. And the content is one thing, but the context of that content is really important. And when you start talking about context and you talk about brands and you talk about fashion brands, one could see fashion brands aligning themselves not just with star talent, not just with the next up and coming hip hop phenom, but with actually things like avatars.
Yeah.
Little fun avatars, like imagine a Louis Vuitton t-shirt on a hippopotamus NFT.
It's the wave of the future. Paul, thank you again for coming on. We have run out of time. Hsiao, thank you for joining us. It was a pleasure chatting with you today.
Okay, Zen. Thank you
very much. All right. Have a good day.
Absolutely, guys. That was Paul Calwdell from Caldwell Soames and Hsiao Chen from CEO at Mx3. We're talking about the digital process and NFTs and how it's all tying together. That was our innovation and tech segment. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WR, the voice of New York. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Caldwell Soames Incorporated, investing globally in transformative businesses like Original Digital Corporation, or ODC. ODC develops advanced consumer and commercial fintech solutions such as OG Pay, which will transform the way you manage your money. From sending and receiving money globally for free, paying for goods and services in person and online, pay bills, buy and sell digital currencies, all while earning interest. OG Pay is easy to set up, FDIC insured, and your information is secured. Check out ogpay.com.
If you've missed out dining in New York City for the past year, it's time to visit the legendary Vice Cucina. Located in the heart of Midtown, Vice specializes in blending delicious Northern Italian and American cuisine with dishes such as the incredible taglione lobster, ravioli masala, ossobuco, and pappardelle al telefono, along with many other mouthwatering offerings. You deserve a great night out. Call Vice Cucina 212-757-2600 or online at vicecucina.com.
Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I am your host, Zen Sams. Now, coming up, we have our very famous culinary and wine segment. And this week, we're featuring Peter Guimaraes. He's managing partner at Vice Cucina Restaurant Group and a celebrity himself. Peter continues to generate amazing dishes, but now not only in Midtown, he's in Soho. He recently opened his second location of Vice Cucina. He's coming on in just a few minutes to help me help you navigate NYC Restaurant Week with ease. Now, NYC Restaurant Week is the city's original culinary celebration and the world's first ever restaurant week. In fact, the program debuted in 1992 when it was developed as a one-time culinary event to welcome the Democratic National Convention, that's right, to the city. Though it was created to appeal to delegates and other DNC attendees, the program, with 95 participating restaurants, also found a strong following among residents excited to dine at some of the city's top restaurants. So over the past 30 years, New York City Restaurant Week has grown tremendously, yet has remained committed to giving visitors and residents the opportunity to experience the quality, variety, and hospitality that all embody the NYC dining experience. And in early 2021, NYC Restaurant Week to go put a spin on the tradition to give the dining industry some much needed support amongst the COVID-19 pandemic, with a first ever, takeout and delivery program that became NYC's largest dining initiative to date, with more than 800 participants from all 5 boroughs. If its success has taught us anything, it's that New Yorkers love their restaurants, and NYC Restaurant Week is definitely here to stay. The program has since returned to its in-person glory with a much more inclusive pricing structure to ensure representation of all the incredible dining options across our 5 boroughs. Now NYC Restaurant Week Winter 2022 is going to run from January 18th through February 13th with even more options for a delicious dining experience than ever before. Those of you that know me can bet that you will also spot me at Vice Cucina, either the Midtown location or when I'm downtown, I'm definitely hanging out at Vice Soho. Welcome to the show, Peter.
I really love these early morning interviews.
Well, listen, welcome to the show. You are the owner of both Biche Cucina locations right here in New York City. And I would like to know what you have planned for NYC Restaurant Week for Biche.
Well, you know, Restaurant Week starts January 18th through February 13th. A lot of people don't know that. You know, a lot of people think it's just a week because it's called Restaurant Week. I'm not sure why they don't change the name to Restaurant Month. But anyway, so this year they have 3 different pricing structures, $29, $39, and $59. And they basically leave it up to each restaurant to decide what they're going to include in that price structure. $29 looks like it's going to be probably just a prefix lunch. And then $39 and $59 will probably be for dinner.
And what kind of dishes are you are they part of the regular menu? Like, are you extracting dishes from the menu? Or are you adding special dishes for the month, essentially?
Excuse me. No, so really, Restaurant Week is done to get the culinary scene from New York out to everybody, right? Especially if you're a higher end restaurant like we are. Normally on a Restaurant Week, you would get people coming in that normally wouldn't come to your place because of its price structure. So Restaurant Week is meant to introduce these restaurants to everybody. So the menu will be the same that it is in our regular menu, smaller little items, and then we combine it with a prefix where you would get a salad, an entree, and a dessert.
There you go. Now, do you actually feel that there's an influx of customers during Restaurant Week, or do you feel like it's kind of pretty much the same in terms of business flow?
Well, you know, it's a good question. Before COVID, you definitely felt it. During COVID, it's sporadic. I think people, and with the media always talking about the Omicron and the viruses, people are starting to get a little bit nervous about going out. So I'm curious to see what effect it will have on Restaurant Week.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, I'm always going to put this advice out because I'm a big Restaurant Week fan. Always try booking for lunch because many of these restaurants participate in the program for only the midday meal, right? And alternatively, I always tell people to make a reservation for Sunday nights where there's usually more availability and when many restaurants still serve their NYC Restaurant Week menus. So checking in advance and planning ahead. Now, with customers in this new year in your Biche Cucina location, which is always trending, packed with a celebrity. I mean, I've been there a dozen times and in just since the beginning of the year, and I've always spotted somebody noteworthy. How do you manage to not only serve amazing food, the prices are always reasonable, but there's always a celebrity there, Peter? Like, is your Rolodex just VIP celebrities and politicians? How do you pull this off?
You know what? I think it has to do with the fact that we've been in New York City for over 35 years. When we first opened up in 1983 on 54th Street in Midtown, we were the celebrity-driven place. And since we've opened restaurants all over the world and we're in popular locations, I think that has a lot to do with it. If you go on my Instagram page, you see Bruce Springsteen, you see Billy Joel, you see a lot of celebrities. And I think they've just been used to coming to us over the years. And, you know, people like going to places that they know they're going to get good food, they're going to be treated well, and we've lasted the test of time. You know, we're not a flash in the pan.
Yeah, no, you definitely have lasted the test of time. And I know that a lot of the Restaurant Week features include drinks, right? So some restaurants pair beverages, wine, specialty cocktails with their meals, typically for around $15 to $25 extra. Are you doing this at the Biche, any of the Biche locations?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we just we're starting to work out on our pricing structure right now. But yeah, I mean, we want to make it so people have a good time. People enjoy the price structures and they get what they paid for. You know, some complaints sometimes during Restaurant Week is the portions are just so much smaller to fit the price. People tend to leave with a bad taste in their mouth, and we're trying not to do that.
That's what I was going to ask you. So my major complaint every time I get to a restaurant during NYC Restaurant Week is I always say, well, is this the same dish as it would be on the menu? Because I do feel, to your point, that I want to say at least 50% of restaurants alter the portion size. And you're right, that does leave a sour taste in somebody's mouth, no pun intended. So I'm glad to hear that you will not be doing that. Now, Instagram could definitely be your guide here. And I know that you are an influencer of sorts. You trend very well on the gram. We have tons of common friends. And I know that people look at social media to make choices, be it for food or for clothing. So what does, when one would land on the Biche Cucina Instagram page, the one thing that I always see is that you're featuring really cool dishes, DJs, you know, the moments that are basically capturable and where you can show the world what experience, what culinary experience you'll be getting when you dine at your place. But talk to me about the effect social media has had on your restaurants.
So social media has changed the game, you know. So back in the day before social media, to get that kind of exposure you get now on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, you have to spend a lot of thousands of dollars on PR firms and advertising. So social media has helped, you know, smaller companies, smaller guys like us, to be able to get our product out there at an inexpensive way to do it. So social media, if you have a huge following, if you know what you're doing on social media, you can really make an impact on driving people to your place.
Absolutely. And then it's very telling also, Peter, of the demographic that you're serving, right? Because, for instance, a lot of millennials, a lot of Gen Zs, we're on social media. Baby boomers have now jumped on the bandwagon, I feel, and are now also checking out restaurants and products on social media. So it's definitely upping the ante. And I think that the biggest fear a business should have is not being on social media, not the fear of actually getting on there. Just get on there and start to create positive posts, exactly like what you're doing. Well, that brings us to the end of our talk time, but I wanted to make sure that people also know the hashtag NYC Restaurant Week. Check that out on Instagram to see what dishes and restaurants are trending. And here's a pro tip. Search the geotags of participating restaurants to see what looks delicious before you actually get there. Peter, thank you so much for coming on and giving us such insight for Restaurant Week. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you, Zen. I'll see you at the bar later.
Absolutely, I will be there. Definitely check out Peter G. He trends all over social media. Check them out on their website at bichecucina.com or check out their individual handles at bichecucina.soho and at bichecucina Midtown. That was Peter Grimatis, managing partner at both Biche Cucina locations. That was our culinary and wine segment. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. We'll be right back after this.
If you've missed out dining in New York City for the past year, it's time to visit the legendary Biche Cucina. Located in the heart of Midtown, Biche specializes in blending delicious Northern Italian and American cuisine with dishes such as the incredible taglione lobster, ravioli masala, ossobuco, and pappardelle al telefono, along with many other mouthwatering offerings. You deserve a great night out. Call Biche Cucina 212-757-2600 or online at bichecucina.com.
That's the end of our date, my dear friends. Thank you for joining me. Remember to come back next week right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. We're live every Saturday night from 9 to 10 p.m. or go to 710wr.iheart.com/A Moment of Zen. Remember, we're now on TV. Download the KP Media TV app on Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, or Android TV, or you could tune in at watch.kpmedia.tv and catch us live on the Impact channel Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. All episodes of A Moment of Zen are now available on demand. Thank you for listening to us. It's been an absolute pleasure being your host. And remember, happiness is the only thing that multiplies when you share it. Thanks again to all of our sponsors.